everyone, welcome to another week's video. Thank you so much for all your kind messages in my previous post. I was feeling a bit unwell to record and you were very nice to me, so I thank you for that. And if you are still here, thank you for sticking up with me and the channel. I've been a bit out of the loop in the past weeks. I've got sick and then other things happened. I had to postpone a bit my videos for the channel, and I had a few ideas of things I could share today, but being so long without recording, I wanted to ease myself back into it, so I decided to make a little sketchbook tour, which it has been very long. I don't do here on the channel. I have a tendency to jump from sketchbook to sketchbook. I'm not particularly loyal to any brand. It's very, very rare that I stick to one sketchbook and go from beginning to end. So that's why I don't have many of those here in the channel. But this one, it's almost finished. I have just a few pages at the end, and I thought I had enough here to share with you. Some of you might remember this little sketchbook here. This was sent to me by Lightwish when they sent me also their watercolors. I have a video on the channel where I share my thoughts on their watercolors and this sketchbook. I'm gonna link it here on the card so you can check that out if you haven't seen it yet. And yeah, this is a lovely little square sketchbook with 100% cotton paper, and it's hot press, but I was surprised. I really enjoyed working on it. Usually I'm not into hot press paper that much. I find it's too smooth for my taste. I like to have a bit of texture, but this one was really nice to work with, and I'm gonna share what I painted here inside. But before that, as usual, I'd like to thank again everyone for staying here with me, for keeping me company, giving me suggestions of things you want to see, or commenting on my videos. I really appreciate. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so, because it really helps. You know how it works here on YouTube. So anything you can do to help, it's really appreciated. Commenting, subscribing, hitting that notifications button, all is really appreciated. And yeah, let's start this tour now. So I think I started by the wrong side, so this is the correct side of the sketchbook. You have the first page here. I did this little color chart. I intended to use this sketchbook last year around October. I wanted to join the challenges of Peachtober and Calmtober by Crixis. And Peachtober is by Furry Little Peach, and I chose this color palette with these 5 colors that are here on the diagonal. So this one, I believe, is Quinacridone Gold by Rosa Gallery. You have Green Black or Black Green, Rosa Gallery as well. Naples Yellow Reddish, Rosa Gallery. Coral, also Rosa Gallery. And this, I think, is Madder Red or Madder Brown, not sure, but I'm gonna put here when I'm editing. So these were the 5 colors I chose, and then I did this little color chart to see the type of mixes I could get. So the first little prompt that I did was Daisy for Peachtober together with Teapot for Calmtober, and I really liked doing this piece. I really enjoy. I managed to get some texture. Like I said, I love working with texture, so I used colored pencil on top of watercolor to get this effect. I used the pencils on the horizontal, on the side, rather than the tip, and then I got this lovely effect of a vignette over here. And yeah, I was really happy with how this one came about. Then the following prompt, I believe, was just for Peachtober, and it was Spark, I believe. So I thought about jewelry, and I drew this little monster hand with some metallic accents. I also did some pattern on the back using stencils. And if you are curious about how to do that, there is a video from Jackie Hernandez. She also has a course about watercolor textures, which is where I learned how to use this technique, and it's really great course. So I'm gonna leave also a link to her video down below where she explains this technique, and then you can check also her website for the course. Following up, I have another joint prompt here, and I don't really remember what the prompts were for this one. I didn't take note, but if I manage to find it, I'll put here while editing. So I'll just drew this little fox and a bird over here. And what else? Now, this is when I started giving up on both challenges. There was the prompt sky. I had this idea of drawing this balloon and birds, and it just went downhill from there, because I started painting and I was fine with the sky, but as soon as I started painting the balloon and the birds, I was not happy with it. I thought it was too stiff, and I still think it looks too stiff. So I kept trying to fix it and fixing it, and the more I tried, the less I enjoyed this painting here. So I kind of got blocked for the rest of the challenge. I have to take a few days to take a step back, because I was really annoyed of how this came about. So I took a break and I came back for a few other prompts, but I didn't finish the challenge during the month. It was quite challenging already to have one list of prompts, then to join two lists was a bit too much for me at the time. So I managed to squeeze a few still. So this one we had, I think it was lantern or something like this, and deer or fawn actually was the prompt. And yeah, I joined these two. I used some negative painting here in the background, and I liked using also the negative space around the composition. I really enjoy how this one looks like. Then this one was bear and bud. I also used colored pencil to give some texture here on the corners, as you can see. I didn't even publish this one, but I don't know, I think at the time I was not sure if I liked it or not, but looking at it now with fresh eyes, I do like this. Just needed some brighter lights here, but yeah, I like the little bear. And this one I also really liked. It got a bit stained here from the other page, but this one, the prompts were moth and wheel. So I decided to create a color wheel and put a moth on top of it, and I really like how this one came about. I think it looks nice. I also added some gold accent here at the outside of the wheel. And in case you are wondering how I draw things so precisely like this, I have a little trick and tip for you. What I do is, when I have to draw something that is really symmetrical, like a butterfly, for example, or with the circle I just use the compass, but the butterfly, I use the iPad to draw symmetrically on Procreate, and then I use the iPad as a light box. I put it under the page and then I trace on the top. But if you don't have an iPad or a tablet, what you can do is you draw half of the butterfly in a very dark pencil, and then you fold the sheet of paper, and then you trace the other half, and then you have the symmetrical butterfly or moth. Then I have here an unfinished painting which is not a great thing to show in a sketchbook tour, but this is a real reflection of what art practice is about. Sometimes you do things we like, sometimes we do things we are not very happy with, and sometimes we just give up halfway because we lost interest in it. And that's what happened to this painting. I had this idea of drawing a little wizard kind of creature under a type of dome. And I had started this composition, but then I don't know, it didn't speak to me anymore, so I kind of abandoned the October challenges at this point. And then it took me a long time to use the sketchbook again, until I decided to join another challenge back in January, which was Burp Fest, painting a different bird every day for January. And I had never joined before, so I was curious of trying, and this is my first one. I did write the name of the birds here on the side. So this is Lady Rose Turaco, and you'll notice that it's very different style because I didn't use watercolors, or kind of. I had just purchased a set of Shinhan Pass watercolor gouache hybrid paints, and I was very curious of how they performed, and I decided to take the opportunity to try them using only these paints for this challenge. So that's what I've used here, and I really enjoyed my first experience with it. I like the way, for example, I was able to create some texture here in the background by diluting a little bit the paint. I love the way how you can also have this kind of watercolor effect, which I assume you can also do with gouache. I had never tried using gouache in that way, but with the Pass paints, I was totally exploring different ways of using, because it was totally new material for me. So I started noticing here that I like more using this paint a little bit more diluted than thick like gouache. Like I try using it here, and you can see that even transferred a bit here to the other page. When it was very thick, I was not enjoying that much. So I continued using it for the rest of the challenge. Here I have other two birds. This one I was still experimenting. You can see I used here very diluted like watercolor, and sometimes very opaque. And here also I had used it a bit more thickly, and it got transferred from the other page. And I must say also I added details. I don't know if in this as well, I added details with Neocolor tools. So these yellow squiggles here, they are all Neocolor. And sometimes I would use colored pencils as well. This one I used the same. I used a Neocolor, some white gel pen, and yeah, some colored pencil for the texture in the background. I really like the way this one came out, even though I think that the background is a bit too dark, but I really like how the bird came out. And this is a lazuli bunting or bunting. Then here I really started experimenting using the paint as watercolor, so very diluted. You can see here all the blooms, so you can get some pretty interesting effects. I think the advantage of these paints is that you can use it diluted for organic effects like this, and when you need it, you can use it more opaque and a bit less diluted. So that's what I did here for the eyes, for example, and the beak. Here I didn't enjoy much at the final result of this painting, because again I felt that I went too dark on the background, so I used some Neocolors on top to make it brighter and give it a bit of texture. But if I was to do it again, I would have chosen a less vibrant and a bit lighter color. But it was fun to experiment also with the neon from the Shinhan Pass. Then here again we have a lovely little stone chat bird, and I used it again very diluted, more like watercolor. I started by now I was already noticing that that's how I enjoyed the most using this paint, so I just leaned into it and was experimenting with blending and mixing different colors. It was really fun. I used the new colors as well here for some details, and here as well for this confetti. This one I really enjoy working on the background with the indigo. I thought it was very nice, and one thing that frustrates me sometimes with watercolor in darker tones like indigo is that you need lots of layers to build this level of darkness, because sometimes indigo looks very dark when it's wet, and as soon as it dries it really lightens, so you lose a bit of the darkness that you intend for if you're painting, for example, a night sky. And this one was just one layer, so you can get pretty dark quickly. So I thought it was great also to use in conjunction with watercolors. Maybe if I want to paint a night scene, I could see myself using the indigo from Xinhan Pass to paint the sky. And as weird and strange as this bird may look to you, I invite you to check the photos of the real bird on Google. This is the northern potu, I believe. I'm not sure if I'm mispronouncing. It's very possible. And it does look very weirdly similar to my drawing here, so I'm not that creative. You'll see, if you see the bird, the real thing, it's a very unique bird. And here I did this little penguin, which I really enjoyed. And one thing I forgot to mention also that I really enjoyed doing in this sketchbook is creating these frames just by hand without a ruler or anything with Posca pens. So I was using the Posca pen for the frame, and also to write the name of the bird here on the side. And I have to say I really like working on the square format, so really enjoyed this sketchbook. It's not very often that we find square sketchbooks, so this one was really fun. Here we have another hummingbird. I like the way I created the background here with the greens and the new colors as well. This one I felt was a bit overworked. It was one of these days where you keep adding with the hopes that you feel happy with it, but sometimes it's better just to take a break and stop and then reevaluate. So I felt it was a bit stiff, but it was okay. Then we have a falcon over here. I used a bright pink neon for the background, and I found it was fun to contrast with the kind of more neutral colors of the bird. This one was one of my favorites. This is the final pepla. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but I really enjoy working on these little birds here. I like the composition I created, the way I drew the branches, and I really enjoyed using it very diluted like watercolors. You can even see hopefully some texture here. The granulation, I think I may have used a bit of ultramarine. So yeah, I started really leaning into using it more diluted like watercolors, and that's how I enjoy using this paint. Here the same, I used ultramarine. This you can see really the granulation. So what's fun about this is that you can get granulation with these paints, and you can have a bit more opacity. Of course, it's not as opaque as other colors, for example the gray, but I think that when you use gouache, traditional gouache, it's not always that you get granulation. So I was surprised to see granulation in this hybrid paint, and I really enjoy creating this one as well. I did some golden details here for the stars. It was really fun. This one as well, I used very diluted Xinhan Pass, and then I added some details with Posca, white Posca here on top, and I also did some vignetting with colored pencils. I think this was my first time painting a chicken. I'm not sure, but it was really fun. I enjoyed it, so I may revisit this idea in the future. I found it was a fun exercise, and yeah, same diluted colors here as well. I really enjoy creating this background. I had a lot of different blobs of paint on my palette, so they were mixing, and so I decided to just grab it and add here like this without thinking too much. So in the end I got this pretty organic gray where you can see a bit of pink and orange in the background. I really enjoy mixing the gray on the paper like this, so that's something that I would like to try again. And once again I used some neo colors here for the details. This one is the Great Crested Grape with some little birds here. This is a mama bird, and I used some granulating paint here as well. I believe it's ultramarine. You can see even diluted a bit of the granulation. And I used the neo color for drawing the pattern of the little, I don't know how to call them. They're not ducklings because they're not ducks, but you know what I mean. They are very lovely. And this was another one of my favorites. I really enjoy how this one came about. I don't know, I was inspired that day, and I drew the birds in this very graphic, geometrical way, and I felt like the diluted neon pink would suit, and I really like how this came about. I think this represents me very well, the type of style that I aim to. I don't get there every time, but I aim to getting there. So this was a really good one. And this one is a magpie, white-throated magpie jay. I really enjoyed working on this one as well. Very bold colors, so I used an orange background to complement the blue on the feathers, and I did some patterns here with the brush. And here I tried something different. I had never drawn a bird in this position in mid-flight, so it was a really fun exercise, and I also had fun mixing different tones for the sky. You can see some purples and different blues, and again the granulation is lovely for skies. Here we have a cassowary, which is a very menacing and strange looking bird, kind of prehistoric bird. And yeah, I had fun painting those as well. I think a bit of the color from this bird rubbed off here. I have the impression rubbed off here as well, the new color. But I don't mind too much, you know. It's a sketchbook. I use it as a place to practice. I'm not too precious. If I really like something I paint, I will paint on a separate paper, or maybe even remove from the sketchbook and put it on a frame. But this one I'm not too precious about. So yeah, this one I used the paints and the neo color as well for some details here at the legs. Then I did this very colorful rainbow pigeon. I don't know why I had this idea of making this very colorful pigeon, and then I decided to try some texture for the background, so I added some swirls around with the neo colors, and I used some white gel pen here at the feet. Then here we have a kind of angry looking hawk eagle, but that's how it looked to me in the picture. I was basing my compositions in pictures I found in Google, because most of the birds that I painted for this challenge I didn't know. And yeah, one thing I had to mention though, I didn't follow the challenge along every day for the month of January. There was a long delay between, for example, this one and this one. It took me weeks to get back to it, but I was determined to finish the challenge. So I started on 1st of January, but I believe I finished now in March, beginning of March maybe, so, which is completely fine. It's good to join challenges and to put yourself out of your comfort zone and to practice, but it shouldn't be a hard thing to do to the point that stresses you out. So if you see that it's not working and you need some time, it's fine, take your time, and then if you feel like you go back to it. That's what I did here. Another lovely blue bird, so I used again an orange background with some details with neo color, and then a roseate spoonbill. And this bird in particular, it brings memories to me, because I remember seeing this bird with my mom when I was little, going to the zoo. I really have a memory of seeing this bird in person, so it was nice to paint. Then we have this Eurasian bitter. I used again some granulation here on the sky. I went a bit wild with the sky since the bird had such neutral tones. I decided to go for a more colorful sky. Here we have a Cuban toddy, which I don't know why, but it came out a bit like this, grumpy. I think I may have a tendency to enjoy drawing grumpy birds, and we are arriving almost to the end. And these are the final two. We have here a black-headed gull, and this is a fun one to me because we have those here in Ireland, in Dublin in particular, and they are very cheeky little fellows, I must tell you. They are smaller than the regular white gull, the big ones that we see here as well, but they are not afraid to get in your face to ask for food. And I tell you, if you find yourself with a piece of bread or something and they are nearby, they're not shy. I can tell you that. So yeah, and the last one was this spotted pardalot, and it had a lot of pattern and different colors, so I went for a more natural background with greens, and I decided to experiment dropping some clear water in the wet paint to get some blooms, and it worked, as you can see. So yeah, you can have fun also with effects using the Shinhan Hybrid Pass paints. So this was all I had here. I still have a few blank pages. I have this one, that's when I did the test for the Lightwish video. And yeah, I still have 1, 2, 3, 4 pages left to paint. So I would like to ask your opinion. What should I paint in these 4 last pages of this sketchbook? I've been in a bit of a funk lately without ideas of new things to paint, so I appreciate your suggestions. And then I promise you, once I complete this sketchbook, I will post on the community tab of the channel what I created on these last few pages here. So that was my little sketchbook tour. I'll give you also a small peek on something I've been working on lately. So this year I decided to join the 100-day challenge, which I know it's quite a long challenge to take, and I tried in the past, failed because I gave up after a few days. And I decided this year to do something that I enjoy and that I would like to practice more of without being too demanding. So my choice for this year 100-day challenge is working on color and pattern. So I decided that every day I would do a little composition or a little thumbnail like this, and just practice different color palettes or patterns. So that's what I've done so far. For the first 6 days I just drew a flower, the same flower over and over, and I have a good few books here of color patterns, which I do intend of sharing in a future video. So I used some of the books to find different color palettes and practice them. Then here I did the same with another composition, a little house, some color palettes I pulled from books. Sometimes I just went off top of my head, like these ones here. Then I was a bit overwhelmed with other things, and I decided to go easier on me for the following six days. So I just painted patterns. The first two went horribly. They're not these two, they went so bad, and I was so annoyed at looking at them that I painted another piece of paper and I glue on top of the sketchbook. So nothing is lost, you can always recover. And I really enjoy working on these stripy patterns. Then I went back to a little scene with mountains and the sun or the moon. And currently, which I'm 1 day late, I have 2 to catch up, but I'm doing polka dot patterns in this page over here. So that's where I am right now, and it's been fun, but at the same time, like I said, sometimes I don't manage to do in a day for some reason. I just take a breath, and then the following day I do 2, and that's all good. But I'm doing my best to keep practicing every day and trying things that I enjoy using, like pattern and colors, and not being too hard on myself, which I know it's kind of easy to say but hard to do. Most of us that make art, we tend to be hard on ourselves. So I would say to both you that are watching me here and myself that it's fine to also do things that you don't like, and maybe sometimes to take a break, but the important thing is to enjoy what you're doing, no matter if the final result is not what you expect. But at least if you enjoy choosing the colors, if you enjoy seeing the paint mix on the paper, if you enjoy thinking of new ideas or new ways of doing things, that's all valid. So that's going to be my focus for this year, to just take my time and enjoy what I'm doing, not to put too much stress on it. And yes, I hope you enjoyed this chatty sketchbook tour, and please let me know in the comments what do you think I should paint on my last 4 pages for that little sketchbook, and I will sure let you know once this is done. And thank you for being here with me, I really appreciate, and I hope to see you here soon. Bye.